All right, guys. So I want to talk about, what determines communication frequency in friendship, right? Because we see like some people, some friends basically, they contact one another quite frequently, maybe every single day, once a week, whereas others maybe once a month, once in a while, once a year, even. It just depends, right? And contact or communication can be really anything. Are you seeing them in person, or is this mostly through messaging? Because maybe you guys are just busy with work, family, whatever, or now you live in different locations, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so let's talk about what these factors are, right? That determine, that decide this just frequency of contact and communication in a friendship. So, one of them that comes to mind is just life stage and availability. So, with people who have um, let's say, demanding jobs, right? So, maybe they're a nurse or something, or maybe they have children that they need to pay attention to, they're raising, or maybe they're attending school or university full time, or they have caregiving responsibilities because they're a parent, like a mother, a father, or something. Or, it could be a difference when it comes to time zones, right? It makes it a little bit difficult to, reach out to them as much as you'd like sometimes. So obviously, I think this is more of a logical kind of situation. It's just something expected. So, in these kinds of situations and moments, people are often going to communicate less frequently, even regardless, like if the friendship is a strong one, right? It's a good one. So, that's just something, that's expected. If people are busy, they're busy. They don't hate you or anything. They just really don't have time. It's just the way it is. And you kind of see that when it comes to adults, maybe university students, I'm not sure, but I'd say for adults, for the most part, who are working full time, or people who are studying and working full time a lot, right? Business people. Another factor that really kind of decides this is personality and social style. So, in some cases, some people, they feel connected or bonded through a lot of interaction, right? Frequent interaction. Whereas, while maybe others, they kind of um, maintain this kind of closeness, right? This bond or whatever, with occasional check-ins, right? For example, let's take like introverts as an example, right? They may like value maybe like longer gaps in that communication style, or when it comes to contact, without interpreting this frequency of contact as something that's necessarily negative. So with introverts, it could be, well, some of them at least, maybe it's just more like a once in a while thing. Whereas with maybe some extroverts and ambiverts, they prefer more frequent contact. Hey, if you want to be my friend, I kind of expect you to consistently keep up with me, like a few times a week or something. This is just hypothetical talk. We're just using this as an example here. And it's true. Like, yeah, in my case, I'm kind of like between an ambivert and introvert. So, with some, but I'd say I'm more dynamic. So I have like friendships where I am more in contact with them compared to others, and with others, I have like some people where I'm reaching out to them like once a year. With others, like a few times a month. It just depends. Now, another factor to consider is emotional intimacy. So, how emotionally close are you to this person? So, when it comes to close friendships, they often like involve more regular communication patterns and styles here. Not always, but this tends to be the case. So, Some long-term friends, right? People who have known each other for a good period of time, they communicate rarely, maybe less often. Yet, they're able to kind of continue where they've left off, or just resume that contact easily without like any feelings of like tension or awkwardness. It's as if everything like it's as if there wasn't a communication gap or period at all. So, and again, that's because there's just this level or degree of trust and familiarity that's already established, okay? So if you know a guy or gal for 8 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever, it's not surprising in most cases where if you contact them 6 months later to have a talk, uh, you know, they're down to do that. They're cool with it. And it's not awkward like, hey, why haven't you talked to me in a while? Like, what's going on? Do you hate me? Like, it's been 6 months. You're so rude. You're so inconsiderate. So most of the time, they're not going to think that way, depending on the person. And again, because you've known them for a long time, they know who you are. You know who they are. You guys feel close. Another variable that kind of affects this is just shared environment, right? Your location. So, say friendships that are built around these kind of situations like school, right? You have friends from high school or middle school or something, or work. It's another place where you see a lot of the same faces almost every single day, at least on business days. So, these kind of shared environments can affect how often you're gonna, interact with, friends or people who are close to you at least. Hobbies, right? So maybe you're into, and this is a perfect example because maybe you're not even meeting up with these people in person, right? Most of the time. So think about video games, right? Think about Discord. Think about these online servers. There are people who have like these online friends, video game buddies, and they're just like gaming 24/7. No, hopefully not 24/7, but nearly every day or almost every single week, right? Or on the weekends. And that's because they're really into these multiplayer games, and it just like it's just the perfect excuse for them to interact with another human being, right? So, like in online situations or hobbies that are related to online things, it's common. But even then, like when it comes to real life, not real life, I want to say like offline hobbies. Yeah, like if you're into like, let's say, what was the example I had in mind? Let's say you're into like tennis or something, right? Or like any other kind of hobby you can do like in person or offline. Maybe you like to go cycling or something. So if you're really hardcore into certain hobbies like that, then of course you're probably gonna see these people a few days a week. Think about that app, right? Meetup or meetup.com. They have all these different ideas and activities for people. And I know some people, they attend them once or twice and they give up. Maybe they're too shy or they're just bored of it or they weren't able to make friends out of it. But, with others, it wasn't the case. They were able to bond with people and they got really into those hobbies and they're showing enthusiasm towards it. So maybe within some of these meetup groups, they might hit them up a few times a week. Who knows, or on the weekends or something. And of course, like another thing related to shared environment could be just proximity in general. Because if you live like close to someone, you guys are in the same city, maybe the same neighborhood even. It's gonna make it easier to contact them. You could drive to their place, they can come to yours, right? And that interaction will probably sometimes just naturally build itself into your daily schedule or life. Now, another thing to consider is just attachment and reassurance needs. So this is like something also emotional. So people just vary, they just differ in how much communication they really need to feel secure in a relationship, comfortable in a relationship, right? At ease in a relationship. So, for example, hypothetically speaking, maybe perhaps one friend may see another weekly, they may see like a weekly contact as close, right? To them. So if they're communicating or interacting with another friend, another buddy of theirs, once a week at least or twice a week or something, they deem that as like emotionally met. So they feel close as long as they have that routine frequency of once or twice a week. However, for another person, that may not be the case. Maybe they're a little bit more emotional when it comes to this contact frequency. So once or twice a week isn't sufficient to them. They view it as distant. So if that's the case, they feel like that attachment need, that reassurance need is not being met. And they might even complain about it, like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like, are you mad at me? Like, how come you're not responding to my texts? I'm like sending texts to you every single day. Like, do you no longer care about me, or did I do something wrong? So maybe the person's not like necessarily OCD or anything, but they're not obsessive, but that's just who they are. Like, they're a person who wants daily interactions or interactions 4 or 5 days a week. Everybody's different. It just depends like what your attachment and reassurance needs or expectations are. So I can't say like something's normal or abnormal. It just really depends on the boundaries that are set, the communication boundaries that are set between both parties. It varies for everyone. And again, like in my case, it's just totally dynamic. I'm not exaggerating. So I have one friend. We love to talk about the economy, politics, technology, business, health style habits, diets, and similar kind of issues, safety, travel, whatever. So with that person, since I just experienced a lot of value in our friendship, in our relationship, and vice versa, I guess in his case, I don't mind like a few messages, 10, 15 minutes of worth of interaction with them on a daily basis, because it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bug me. I don't feel drained, I don't feel annoyed, I don't feel like it's a distraction. There's no issue. I love it. It's great. Whereas with another friend of mine, maybe I'm not as close with him. It's more of like a once a week thing or twice a week thing. And I do have like friends who I reach out to them or they reach out to me only during like holiday occasions or birthdays or whatever, or like when there's the new year or something, we kind of catch up. And that's because maybe we're not as close together. That could be one reason, or maybe what we are. But it could be other factors too, because like I do have one friend, he's super busy when it comes to just working full time and studying to become a nurse or something. And, he just moved to a new country. I know how stressful it can be. So like in that kind of situation, it doesn't really make sense for me to hit him up every single week. It could be kind of annoying to him. And so you kind of want to have like a deep sense of understanding or empathy if you do decide to go this route where you're going to have like different levels of frequency with different people, if you're as dynamic as I am. So it just depends, but you got to like really understand where the other person's coming from, where you're coming from, right? What is your situation like? what is their expectation, what is your expectation. You guys just have to know each other really well. But others are like, no, like if you want to be friends with me, and anyone for that matter, like you must always, I hate the word always because it's more like really extreme, always, never. I don't like extreme words, but some people are like that. Like most of the time or always, you got to contact me at least twice a week or, a few times a month. Again, it just depends on people's preferences here. As long as both parties are comfortable, it's not an issue. Another factor to think about is just reciprocity and effort balance. So frequency often, it just stabilizes around what both people are consistently contributing here. So say if one person initiates or starts far more often the conversation, the talk, the interaction than the other, the pattern may change over time too, right? Sometimes it does, but sometimes it might not. So you want to know whether or not you're cool with that. So do you want it like to be a back and forth thing? Sometimes I start the conversation, and sometimes they do, or it's cool. I can start it every time. So it's just something to think about. And also, the mode of communication or communication medium, like what you're using to communicate and how you're using it, is also it is important. Sometimes it plays an important role when it comes to that friendship and like the degree of contact here. So if you're a person who's sensitive or emotional about texting, you just prefer everything done by texting, well, you want the other person to reciprocate and text you too. Maybe you don't like for them to leave voice notes. Like it's annoying for you to keep listening to voice notes. So it could be a pet peeve for some people. Or for others, they like to communicate more through social media. So like, hey, I don't have WhatsApp, I don't have Telegram. Can we just use like Facebook Messenger instead? Or can we use Instagram? I prefer like communicating on there. So some people are like that. Some people just only communicate during gaming if they're having gaming sessions. So like if we're not having gaming sessions, I don't want to talk to you. So it depends like what's going on here. Some people only like to interact with others only if it's like involving group dynamics. I think that can be disrespectful for some, but for some it's cool. So hey, like I just like to talk with multiple people at the same time. Do you mind? And there could be also in-person time that's just varies for other people. So with some people, maybe you hang out with them in person for a few hours. With others, maybe half an hour because they're really busy with something. And you can maintain friendship sometimes through like memes. Like if you like to sprinkle memes or emoticons in your text messages in your conversations, at least digitally, that can sometimes make the friendship really strong. It can really establish an emotional bond if you know how to use memes effectively, or which memes and emojis your friend likes, and vice versa. And we could see that they're becoming more and more popular over time. Even at least my mom uses memes when she interacts with me. With my dad, not so much. And some people prefer like shorter, terse kind of reactions. So when you're interacting with them offline or online, it doesn't really matter to be fair. Maybe their messages on average are short, a few words at a time, whereas with the others, like they're more expressive, so they're kind of saying long statements or they're writing them out that way. And also, others prefer having like deeper conversations less often. So when I was born and raised in California, it was a little bit different for me. So if I had like sometimes phone conversations with some friends. Some of them out of respect, they prefer those conversations to be like half an hour. And even it's that way with my father. So a lot of the people around me are kind of emotional when it comes to phone call conversations, at least. But there are some people who are like, hey, I gotta go. Like, hey, I can't like talk for too long. So some people, they prefer them shorter. Maybe they do find them a waste of time sometimes, or they're really just straight up busy. So they might just have like 10-15 minute talks max. Everybody's different. Now, conflict, stress, or like some kinds of transitions can also affect like the communication frequency as well. So, because yeah, obviously, if you get into arguments with people, or if you curse at them, or vice versa, or you're experiencing like certain kinds of problems in life, you want to take a step back. You want to distance yourself. There's gonna be a gap. You might not reach out to them for a while, vice versa. So yeah, communications can drop temporarily, like especially if you're facing or experiencing like burnout or fatigue from work or family life. Maybe you're going through depression. Actually, one time I remember I left a WhatsApp message for a friend. I said, hey, like currently I'm feeling a bit depressed. I'm gonna just take some time off WhatsApp and social media because I really don't feel well right now. No offense to you, it has nothing to do with you, and that's it. But he took it kind of like the wrong way, and it was kind of silly or childish. But he was like, whenever I'm having like interactions with people, like I'm doing it for them. And then he said something like along the lines of like, I don't have like lots of time and energy for everyone, but I just do my best. That was kind of weird. It was something. It wasn't verbatim like that, but it was something ridiculous. I did I didn't find it too offensive, but I found it kind of funny, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting that reaction from him. But whatever, who cares? Anyway, another one is like related to this kind of transition where you do take a break from one another. It could be grief. Maybe somebody died in their life, or they have a family member or friend who's hospitalized. They're in a coma, or they face like some other kind of tragic situation, right? So like during those times, people maybe are just not in the mood to talk to others. It's just the way it is. Think about like wars that are going around the world. It can sometimes affect people this way. They just don't want to talk with others, whereas others do during these moments. New relationships. So if you have made new friendships, or you're dating someone or seeing someone, you're gonna naturally spend less time with your existing group of friends, right? Or just the people you normally interact more with sometimes. So that can happen. It can eat away from your total time. Relocations, if you're moving, right? For work, for university, for whatever reason, for life. Obviously, you're busy during that period of time, so you can't really talk too much, contact people, because you're just moving. Or if there's like some kind of grudge, right? Some kind of unresolved tension going on. So somebody did something, it really offended you, it really bothered you. So you're just avoiding them for a while, right? You don't want to hear from them, you don't want to think about them during that moment. But then maybe this feeling, this tension does go away a year later or whatever. You guys are, back in contact or something. Now you're like, everything's fine, as if it never happened. Who knows? And there's, of course, like cultural and family norms. So some cultures and families, they kind of normalize or value or respect frequent contact. Not surprising. Whereas maybe others place less emphasis on regular check-ins. And something interesting about this that's not mentioned here, and I don't see a lot of people even talk about this. I've seen like a phenomenon where if you're from a particular country, and I don't know like how many countries are like this, but there are some societies where if you leave that society, if you leave that country, and you move somewhere else, uh, for whatever reason, people are going to contact you less, or they might not even contact you at all. It's as if you moved to a totally different planet for whatever reason. So I found that interesting. And when I asked someone about this, they told me like, oh, in my culture, we just prefer to contact people when they're like residing in the same country. But whenever they leave the country, for work, for life, for vacation, whatever the reason is, we just feel like there's like some kind of abstract distance or something. We're not angry at them or something, but we feel like they're not emotionally or culturally available or present at the moment or something like that. So it was felt like a strange or unusual explanation for me, but people are different, cultures could be different, societies can be different. It is what it is. We're not all 100% the same. Now, one important point I want to make is frequency alone. So frequency as a factor, the amount of frequency itself is not a consistent or reliable measure of friendship quality. So just to make it easier to understand this, just to clarify this, so just because a person, let's say, contacts you every single day, or maybe they every time they do contact you, it's for a long period of time, like a few hours a day or something, that doesn't necessarily mean the quality of your friendship or relationship with that person is fantastic, is amazing, it's high quality, it's perfect. It could actually even be the opposite, or it could even be, it's possible it could even be you could have like a weaker bond with that person. I'll explain why in just a sec. So the thing is, a friendship can be emotionally shallow, right? Superficial, fake, despite the constant texting or contact, or even deeply meaningful, valuable, despite infrequent, less common, just less contact, I should say. So what really matters when it comes to the quality of that contact is, responsiveness when it actually matters, when it counts. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a simple example here. And there's many, but not everything's going to come to mind here. So something that bothered me about one friend, and it's one I kind of am no longer in touch as much. Even though I've known this person for 20 years, there are just too many toxic signs. And I think I mentioned one or two of these signs in the previous video, but certain things happen between him and I. Like we're just different people. Our values have changed significantly over time. But I digress. Anyway, so the point I want to make was in regarding just responsiveness when it counts, when it matters. I remember one time I asked him a question. It wasn't something like a difficult question that would take like a long text to respond to, or a long voice note, or a long phone conversation, or anything of that nature. It wasn't something complicated, something abstract, something difficult to comprehend, something that required a large response. It was something like involving maybe cooking or something, right? And maybe involved like just some basic ingredients. Something very like menial, ordinary, trivial. And he just, ignored me for like more than a week. He wasn't on vacation. He wasn't even busy. None of that. And the thing is, it happened on multiple occasions. It wasn't a one-off thing, right? To say like, oh, maybe you're just misunderstanding the situation. Maybe he had an emergency. Maybe he was really busy. Maybe he had a problem with his family. It wasn't that kind of thing, because it was happening quite a bit. And one time, I decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. I normally don't like to do this. I find it childish at times, but it was just something that was arising between me and him. I never noticed this with everybody else in my life. So the same thing happened to me. He asked a question that I could have easily answered in seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. It just boom, one sentence answer. He got what he's looking for. But after he kind of acted and behaved that way toward me, I felt like it was kind of toxic and ridiculous. I just gave him a taste of his own medicine. I didn't respond till like 6 days a week, whatever later. And he was bitter because like when he asked that question, it didn't even take an hour. It didn't even take an hour. And he said like, where are you? What the heck are you doing? Like, are you ignoring me? So I didn't like that. It kind of like reflected on his hypocrisy, right? And his disrespectful behavior towards me. Again, another thing that matters more is mutual care. So, which kind of tied into that previous point I just mentioned, I elaborated on when it came to the responsiveness of when it counts, when it matters, right? Consistency over time. So this is another thing you may pay attention to as well. So if you guys contact each other maybe twice a week, and then suddenly, after a few years, this person just contacts you once a month or once every few months, that's gonna feel awkward unless there's an explanation for it most of the time. Unless you know something about their situation, like something changed, maybe a career change, maybe an emergency, something happened that kind of addressed that change. But if you have no idea, then it's gonna be awkward and it can create a rift between you guys, and maybe things could drift apart, and maybe the friendship could end. So it's good to know like what kind of things may cause this most of the time. Of course, there's trust. Very important here. If something arises where now you or the other person, vice versa, feels like they can no longer trust you, you betrayed them, or there was a grave misunderstanding, right? Something was taken out of context. Well, of course, they're going to contact you less frequently or want to contact you at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's a very powerful factor here. And finally, whether both parties, right, interlocutors, they're feeling satisfied with that conversation or with that level of connection they have, right, between each other. So if you guys really respect each other, if you're happy anytime you're communicating together, it doesn't matter whether you're contacting them every single day, once a week, a few times a month, once a year. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because if the respect is there and that satisfaction is there, then the frequency of contact is irrelevant. It's a moot point. So it's not gonna cause any issues or harm here. And the thing is, problems, generally speaking, for the most part, they tend to happen less from the actual frequency of the conversations and more because of the mismatched expectations, right? About what frequency means. So if for you, frequency means how often they should contact you, well, that's something that's important to you. Or by frequency, if you mean like whether they're responding to your questions or not, that's another thing to consider or take into account. Or, the trust factor, like we mentioned. So that's something that you gotta just pay attention to. Like, are you experiencing that? Like any form of mismatched expectations? If so, then it's gonna cause like, some significant changes or harm in your communication frequency patterns. It's pretty normal. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.